Hello, welcome back to Zwift Live. I'm OJ Borge here in what is usually my kitchen, but as soon as I set cameras and stuff up, it becomes the cyber kitchen, and we're here for the penultimate race of the Tool for All Invitational series. The women are back for their second race of this series. They're going to take on the Crit City Downtown Dolphin. I love Crit City. It's fast, it's furious, we get breaks, all sorts of things happen. It's great to race yourself. It's even better to watch these elites race it. Now, it did feature in our Spring Classics for the men, but this is the first time the women can show what they can do on it. And alongside me to kick this race off is somebody who used to be my favourite Canadian on the planet. After what happened this weekend, she has plummeted down the list. It's Rhea Hobel. Do you know what? You're below Avril Lavigne now, Rhea. Below Avril Lavigne.
You know what? Beating you by so much, it's almost worth it, OJ. How are you?
Oh, yes, I'm all right, thank you very much. I've just about recovered, and I mean that because we took on a Tool for All stage, and I was hoping we'd do the shorter version with the smaller amount of climbing, but no, we did the Keith Hill after party. Yeah, and man, I was broken after that, broken.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough route, and I'm pretty tough on you because I always choose a route that I know is hilly, because with our weight differential, I know those hills are tough for you, and I'm fairly competitive, so I wanted to choose a route that I might be able to win. But man, we raced well together. There was the flat section. We were right next to each other almost the whole way, giving each other a little bit of grief, but also being quite supportive as well.
When you blew me out the back of the pack before we got to the hill, I must admit, then I was like, "Go on, Ray, you can do it." Up to that point, I was desperately trying to crack you before we got to the hill, because I've long had. I mean, you say you're competitive. I've long had the saying that I never lose. I just sometimes haven't finished winning when time runs out, and time did run out. So congratulations, Rhea. You beat me. Well done. Well done.
Thanks very much, buddy. But we both rode really, really well. I'm pretty sure both of us did 60-minute all-time best powers. So we did. The competitiveness in us did pretty good for us both.
It was good.
Yeah, but 1.2 kilometers. 1.2 kilometers.
Yes, all right, that's how much you beat me by, but you did get DQ'd. Don't mention the DQ, everyone, because she was so much of a badass that she went over category, didn't you, Ray?
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be fine, and then looked. I think we finished on 3.3 or 3.4 watts per kilo. We were technically in BCAT, but it was CCAT watts per kilos. Because it was over an hour, it meant that I was over the watts. So yes, on Zwift Power, I do not come up in the standings, and you, my friend, finished 5th, so congratulations, but I still kicked your butt.
Yeah, morally, you won. Technically, I won, let's leave it at that. But we've taken on a Tool for All stage. You can as well, and there's a reason to take a stage on, because you've got until the 30th of May to run, ride or race a stage, and you'll contribute to Zwift's commitment to donate $250,000 if we get 250,000 people riding one stage or running it or racing it. And it's a good thing that everyone should be doing, isn't that right, Rhea?
Yeah, it's amazing, and so many people have taken part so far. It's amazing to see the Zwift community get involved, and there is still time, as you say, OJ, so if you haven't done it yet, get on and get involved, because it's a great opportunity.
Indeed. Yes, and we're not the only people to have done it. Look at these people who have also taken part. You can go anything from professionals. We've got a rider here from Movistar. I'm going to break out my Spanish. Albert Torres Barcelo. And then the other end of the spectrum, you've got this chap. This is Ryan Cook, and Phil, his dad, stuck this on his Instagram account saying, "Weird birthday yesterday. Here's my son on my kicker as I wobbled on my rollers and watched him as he got competitive when people overtook him." Yeah, never let people overtake him. It's good to see someone so young taking part in Zwift. My 6-year-old asked to have a go, of which so far I've said no, because I'm just worried about it getting better than me. Competitive dad all the way.
I totally get it. The two at this house have also got accounts, and it is so impressive how powerful and quick they are, even when they're so tiny, and they will definitely be faster than us sooner rather than later. But today...
It's gonna happen.
But today we are looking at the Downtown Dolphin Crit Race, and the women are taking on this route. Shall we take a quick look at what happened last week?
There's still a good 45 minutes of racing still ahead of them, and already a big group has been detached. Lucy Charles is broken away. She's got a 2-second gap over Rachel Elliott. It looks as if there's only 6, 7, 8 riders left in this pack behind. This field already has absolutely detonated. This is a superb performance by the triathlete. 23 seconds is the lead here. Lucy Charles Barkley now, she's extended her lead by another 10 seconds. 1 kilometre to go now. What a spectacular, dominant performance from Lucy Charles Barkley, riding for Team Turbo.
Did you plan to win in that fashion, or were you surprised at how dominant you were today?
Yeah, we kind of sat down and thought that might be the only chance I had of winning. So we just decided to go for it on the climb and see if I could get the solo breakaway. We knew it was going to be a risky kind of strategy. And once I kind of got that gap, I knew I just had to hold on for dear life.
You had a 35 seconds over the top. She then took it down to 20, and it was yo-yoing all the way into the line. Although you had a reasonable gap, you had to keep trying all the way to the line, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I've kind of got used to that in Zwift racing, that it's never over until it's over. So you just have to keep digging in, and it was almost like looking over my shoulder thinking, no, she's coming back, she's digging again.
Well, Lucy, thanks very much indeed, and I look forward to seeing you racing next week.
Wow. What an incredible race. It is not usual in Zwift racing to see breakaways like that, especially so early on. But what's even more impressive is these breakaways suddenly coming from, dare I say it, triathletes in this race. I was so impressed, OJ.
Yeah, you're mentioning the T word, and that is because there was one rider who very nearly brought Lucy back from that breakaway, and that was triathlete and increasingly familiar Zwift racing face, Lizzie Duncombe. She came third last week, and if I was to look to my left right now, I'd say, oh, Ray, you've got a very excitable face. I wonder why.
Vision Cycling's Lizzie Duncombe has gradually been becoming a Zwift one to watch in 2020.
This is Lizzie Duncombe just a little bit further down the road. She's riding in a very, very strong third position.
And with podium finishes in both race 5 of the Z Pro Tri-Series,
Lizzie Duncombe is certainly one to watch.
And in the first of our invitational races,
third place it is for her, and that's a very, very solid performance indeed.
It looks like her star truly is in the ascendancy. Lizzie is a well-known face in the Ironman circuit, from racing at Kona to winning the Women's South American Championships. But she's also been generating some seriously impressive performances this year on Zwift, across both January's Tour de Zwift and last month's Zwift Classics.
And look at Lizzie Duncombe here. Does real good insight at the kind of effort that these athletes are putting in. Absolutely on the limit. 100 metres, kick, more.
It's this hard work and determination that has resulted in her turning pro in triathlon just a few weeks ago.
You know what, Zwift has been the thing that's kind of taken me to the level that I'm at over the last year, and it's turned my sort of 1 minute power to now pretty much my 20-minute power, and it's taken me a really, really long way. And actually that's why I decided to go pro, because seeing the results on Zwift can obviously translate to real life. I raced in Oman 2.3 back in February, and that was the first time I got to see how the results on Zwift has kind of really paid forward to the road. I'm really excited about what the future holds.
And there is a lot to be excited about, with the future looking bright for this talented young rider.
She's a fabulous racer. I love anyone who tries to chase down a breakaway or gets out of the pack themselves, because it can be safe in the pack. And I know you know her very well, Rhea.
Yeah, Lizzie and I have been on the same team for going on 3 seasons now. We have been training buddies. We have raced at the same races together. We're now coaches together. And it's been really amazing to watch her develop as an athlete. Dare I say it, when we first met her, she wasn't nearly the athlete she is today. And over the last 3 years, we've seen her go from a pretty decent age group triathlete to winning the South American champs, then winning Oman back earlier this year, just before lockdown, the week before lockdown, and now being able to become a pro status. But the most remarkable thing is what Zwift has done for her power and her ability as an athlete, and to be able to see that convert in real life when lockdown finishes is something I am so excited about, and I couldn't be more proud of her.
Part of racing Zwift at the top level is that ability to deal with pain, and it just looks like when the race gets hard, that's when Lizzie really starts to fly.
Lizzie has either one of the world's lowest pain thresholds I've ever come across, or she has a love for that pain because she knows how to get into that hurt locker. She digs deep and she can sustain that pain and effort for longer than anyone I know, and she wants it, but not outwardly. It's an intrinsic desire to be so good. And half the time it's not about beating anyone else. It is just bettering herself. And I love that attitude that she has as an athlete, OJ. It's brilliant.
It is brilliant. It is brilliant. We're looking forward to seeing her race later on. But we need to take a look at today's course. Crit City, the downtown Dolphin. You may be aware of it. You may not. So let's get a recon from everyone's favourite Armstrong. Checks notes. Kristen.
So here we are. Welcome to downtown Dolphin. Tonight's race is going to be 15 laps. Each lap is going to be 1.9 kilometers in length. I'm going to take you on a lap, give you some tips and tricks, and talk about how I'm feeling the course. Positioning in the very first kilometer before you reach that cobble section coming up is going to be critical to the rest of your race. It's going to actually lend to the strength of the rider that has that really high anaerobic capacity right now. As we climb up into this first right-hand turn, our grade has gone up to about 1 or 2%. We actually have 12 turns on this course. We get in the city, we're surrounded by buildings, we take this right-hand turn, and right here we're on the pave, the cobblestone. And it's a very short section, but I'm telling you, short, steep, 4%, reaches up to 6%, all the way up. This is where the power-ups that you have are going to be critical. As we come around this right-hand hairpin corner, we're going to enter into more of a rolling portion. Just because you are going fast, you still have to apply pressure to the pedals. Otherwise, I like to call it, you get the washing machine effect. And the washing machine effect is no fun. Again, position, power-ups are going to be the name of the game. It's fast terrain. It's sometimes negative, -9%. It's going to be quick. So I think that the riders are going to get close to 2 minutes on that finishing lap. We're coming up on a 180-degree turn to the last 200 meters to the finish line. The experience is going to matter tonight. It is surely going to create for an exciting finish. This is what makes Zwift racing so awesome. It's just like having another discipline in the sport of cycling. It's great.
Kristen Armstrong there with a recce of today's route. And Rhea, I love Crit City. I remember when it was first released and the first go on it, it blew me away. For me, it's one of the best courses that Zwift has. It's such a vibrant race where anything can happen.
Yeah, I hear people raving about it, and I've got to be honest, I have yet to do a Zwift crit, even though my coach has been harping on about it for ages. But the problem is, it's always like a tour that we have to do that I have to choose other than a crit race. So I can't wait to dig my teeth into this. I can't wait to see how the athletes do today.
Rhea, you and I feel like I'd have a chance on Crit City against you. But hey, less about us. Let's see which teams are racing today.
Well, OJ, we've got some of our community teams that we've gotten really used to seeing out there racing today. KISS Racing Team, we know the Hino ladies who have been making a huge appearance, but also look out for Team Turbo that Lucy Charles headed up last week, and Vision, which again Lizzie Duncan was a part of.
I am loving the amount of teams we've got at the moment. These series are just getting more and more stacked. If we move into the ones to watch, 6 riders here. If I was going to ask you to pick just one, let's go singular. Who's winning this race, Rhea?
Wow. I've got to go with my girl. She's getting better and better every single series, and I'm going to call it on Lizzie Duncan.
I would agree. Because I think with her TTing power, a normal crit race is all about sprinting. I think Crit City, if she goes early and holds it and digs into that pain you talked about, I think she can win this, but she has to go early.
Yeah. So it's going to be really exciting. Again, we've not seen the women do a crit race, so it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they get on and who takes advantage of the technicalities of the course today, OJ.
It is indeed. Well, we can talk about it all we want. We don't need to anymore because the riders are ready. Let's hand over to the commentary team of Kristen Armstrong and Matt Stevens first. But before we do that, I want you to give me a full-on wrestling Raya. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on!
No. I want more the Macho Man Randy Savage. Come on, think gruffer. Think you're wearing spandex. You've got like tousled hair. You've greased up your muscles.
Okay.
Come on, go for it.
Yeah, all right. Let's get it on!
That's what we're talking about. Let's get the race underway.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Rhea and OJ. What an introduction that was. Absolutely fantastic. But today is going to be a very, very special race indeed. This is the first time the elite women have faced this particular circuit. And alongside me, as ever, to commentate on the events, to talk us through, is none other than three-time Olympic gold medalist and living legend, if you don't mind me saying. It is Kristen Armstrong. Kristen, welcome back to Watopia, to Crit City, should I say. This race is going to be so different to what we commentated on last week, isn't it?
Oh, it's like basically polar opposite. It's going to be an exciting evening.
It certainly is. Now, the riders will be facing 15 laps of this particular circuit, a couple of seconds' time before the riders go off. As we can see now, here we go. The riders have now started out of the pens. And I would imagine that there's going to be some very, very high wattages indeed. So the race, 15 laps of this Crit City circuit. It is the downtown Dolphin. Not too much elevation, so gently undulating circuits. 1.9 kilometers per lap, giving a grand total of 29.4 Ks, which is 18.3 miles. But importantly, and this is going to be a lot of fun tonight, we will talk about the use of power-ups. The riders will get a power-up every time. Well, every single lap they'll get a power-up to use, which I think on today's race, we were talking about it for about 20 minutes, weren't we, Kristen, before we started. Power-ups on today's race, the use of power-ups and knowledge of this circuit, absolutely important, perhaps more important than on any other circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be a game changer. Obviously, we spent 20 minutes talking about power-ups because of how important it is going to be to use your power-up, what power-up you get, which power-ups you save for the last lap, and how the timing goes on all of this. The course is undulating. There's high speeds. There's a little bit of climbing. There's a little bit of everything. There's 12 corners on the crit course. And so obviously it's going to be a difficult day that the women are racing. As you can see, women are already coming and splintering off the back of the 100+ group today.
Yeah, I mean, again, we didn't think that this bunch would stay together too long. There's some big power being dropped. It's just on the front, Tacey Meakin, as we look through some of the rosters here. Hino Racing, arguably one of the teams with the strongest in depth. Louise Huback, Vicky Needham there. They're just moving to the front of the group. Leah Dixon is at the front here. This is the KISS Racing team. Faber, Janssen, Lewis Parker, Paul, and Prinz will be rotating through these squads before we get into the deep part of this race. Lou Bates, a very, very fast finisher indeed. Cassie Escott, Julia Decker, Meg van der Plas, and Katja Guschke. And one of the wonderful things about racing on Zwift, riding on Zwift, is the amount of teams we've got now, Kristen, as we look at Revolution Racing. Daniela Istrate from Romania, got to be their favourite rider. It's so wonderful to see all of these different teams getting increasingly more professional, but with so many country flags as well. It's just great, isn't it?
It is. There's definitely, the pelotons are just becoming larger and larger with each of the races that Zwift is putting on. Like today's race is over 100 women that have entered, and that speaks enormously to the job that Zwift is doing to provide a new platform for the sport of cycling.
Indeed, we're looking at Team Phyllis. That's one lap down. Now looking at the timings, that's taken them 2 minutes and 40 seconds a lap. So we estimated before the start of the show that this race is going to be around 30, 35, maybe even 40 minutes, depending on how, of course, they ride it. A couple of power-ups being dropped already. You can just see the Van Draft Boost power-up. That's the power-up that gives you 50% extra draft for 30 seconds. So it's the longest power-up, but riders using them on this part of the circuit. And I think it's worth drilling down a little bit deeper and explaining to anybody who's watching this race what on earth power-ups are, because they are so crucial. So before we get too deep into the race, a feather power-up basically will make you 9.5 kilograms lighter for 15 seconds, dramatically increasing your power to weight ratio. The van draft boost power up, which is an emoji, as it were, or of a van, that basically increases your draft by 50% for 30 seconds. Then we have an aero boost. This is the icon of an aero helmet. That makes you more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. Really good for attacking, and one that the riders will want if this comes down to a big bungee sprint. The burrito, which a couple of riders are dropping up this cobble climb now, that makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. So best if you're trying to attack, so nobody can grab your back wheel. And then we have the invisible, the ghost. It's the cloak of invisibility, as I like to call it, my favourite power-up, which makes you invisible for 10 seconds. And Kristin, thinking broadly here, if you were on this circuit coming into the final lap and you were racing, what power-up would you choose?
You know, I think that I am the type of rider who would want to get away sooner than the finish. I'm by no means a finisher or a sprinter. And so I think I would want to have that feather on that last lap so that I can go towards the top of that climb and try to hold off a gap as long as I could.
No, we did see that in the men's race. The men have only raced at elite level on this circuit once, and we did see that feather power-up used to good effect. A couple of riders trying to go clear, but the bunch is definitely reduced here. Just looking towards the back of the bunch, plenty of jerseys from Canyon SRAM in there. Didn't get a chance to mention their particular team. Now, this is the 180-degree corner that they carry a lot of speed as they go into. Then they round that final bend, and it's flat for 200 metres. So as ever in crits, as ever in a finish, positioning crucial. But I think, Kristin, again, we did discuss this before the start, but positioning even more crucial here, because this final sprint of 200 metres is going to be over very, very quickly. So it's the approach with all the momentum that you're carrying. That's the one. You've got to come into that final corner in at least the top 8 or 10 riders if you're going to be in with a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why early on you'll see the riders that are some of the favorites up front trying to really actually lessen this peloton. The fewer riders that come into the finish line today together, the better chance for you not to have that washing machine effect and getting shot back towards the back of the peloton. It's very difficult to keep that position. You have to constantly fight that power. And so my prediction is that as we go on throughout this race today, that the laps will continue to get faster and faster.
Well, here we go. They certainly are getting faster and faster. I think you're pretty right. There's a couple of riders off the back, a couple of the team riders from Team Draft in that all-red kit. That's Rebecca Johnson, still gamely pressing on the pedals. I think she's not certainly going to be one of the only casualties today. I think we will see this group gradually start to whittle down. We're on the third lap at the moment. These laps are ticking by very, very quickly. And just look at the head of affairs here. Ron Stevens, 4.8 watts a kilo. Gardner there, 5 watts a kilo. This is this little cobbled section, this cobbled little climb. This is where they turn right and swing. Oh, they've just got up the climb itself. The climb is only 200 metres long, but it's 4% average, kicks up to 6%. A lot of van draft power-ups being used over the top here. And they're coming in now to this almost like a roller coaster section of the course. Very, very quick approach that right-hander again. And we're looking there at Amber Laconte of AHDR from Belgium. Just pedaling along there at 245 watts a kilo, 45 k's an hour. And as we predicted, this field now, Kristin, getting thinner and thinner.
Yeah, I can expect nothing less after I just saw that there's heart rates up to 190 beats per minute. I'm not quite sure what would happen if my heart rate got to 190 beats per minute right now.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm just looking at some of the stats here. Jackie Herring is on the front. All the riders rotating. Faber now from KISS Racing Team on the front, and looking down, I can see most of the riders here. Of course, heart rate differs between person to person, but generally, when you see heart rate above 170 beats a minute, you know that these riders are at or near their threshold, and I expect them to be at or near threshold for this whole race. It's a shorter kind of distance race. It's going to be raced pretty much full gas, and if you get detached from the back, it's pretty much game over. Very, very difficult, I think, if you get detached in this particular style of racing, crit racing, just like in the real world, Kristin. I think it's game over, isn't it, once you're out the back?
It definitely is. I think that one of the most important things is to realize on the course, where on the course is it easier to move up than other places on the course. As you can see on the back side, before we approach the finish line, we have speeds that are going to be well over 60 kilometers an hour. So that obviously is not a great section to try to move up if you are in that back half of the peloton. It's all about the timing. It's all about using the power-ups, and positioning is going to be critical today.
Indeed. Just looking at Lauren Stevens there. Very, very classy rider indeed. From Team Tidcote, very experienced out on the road as well. Was second the other day, of course. And haven't actually seen Lucy Charles. Lucy Charles, of course, romped away with the victory last week on the very, very mountainous course. That was an epic ride by her. Not seen anything like that in a very, very long time. But Lauren Stevens looking good. And would you say a course like this would suit Lauren Stevens? I mean, she's more of a long distance rider, perhaps would suit the climbs more, but I think she'll certainly like a race where everybody's on the ropes for its entirety. This will suit, although she's not a pure sprinter.
Definitely. One of the names of the games when it comes to criteriums is, although in real life you may not feel like you're a technical rider, but Lauren Stevens, let's not forget, she is an incredible time trialist. And so the threshold power that is required on a crit course such as today for 30 to 35 minutes is going to be right up Lauren Stevens' alley. And also, if you look at a rider like Lauren Stevens and you look at her short power, her 15-second power, her power to weight ratio there, it also shows that she's very quick on the road as well.
Yeah, certainly, and that's that ability to deliver that power and also to hold on to it, to ride at threshold or anaerobically on a circuit like this. She could be in with a chance. As I say, if it comes down to a pure sprint, it might not suit her. But I certainly think she'll be reveling in this sort of situation. And just explain a little bit, Kristen, about not obviously it's a shorter kind of race, but the physiological demands of racing this Chris circuit compared to what we saw last week when the racing was a lot longer. What sort of riders will today particularly suit?
Yeah, today's riders this course is gonna suit those who have a higher power threshold. We're also looking at just what is your pure raw power. You know, obviously we don't have a long sustained climb where the lighter weight rider is going to have that advantage. And so today it's going to be definitely a course for the more powerful rider, the rider who has the ability to put out higher wattage. Of course, when you do put out the higher wattage, you do want to make sure that that power to weight is also high as well. But again, today's course is going to suit the rider who has spent hours on Zwift. You know, obviously earlier on last week, as I was checking out some different races, there are riders who have been reclining courses, and riders such as Huback and Hansen, they have raced this course. They have raced this course with the men, with the A category, and have done quite well. They've actually showed to be on the podium. Yeah. So it's riders who have actually experienced Zwift, worked on power-ups, but also has actually entered into the Downtown Dolphin course and actually raced it.
Indeed, I think that's a really good example of how seriously these riders are taking it. Another mention as well to Vicky Neelan from the Hino Racing team. She was she won on this circuit back when it was a non-invitational race, but there was a race for the women on this particular course. She won that one. I think the standard of this race is a little bit higher, well, fair degree higher. Of course, it's the Pro-Am Invitational, but look at all the power-ups that have been dropped on this climb now. The van, draft power-ups, that's the kind of power-up that you want actually on a climb like this. Just increases the benefit of the draft. And that was a great shot there of young Illy Gardner riding for the Rowan Kin team. She got a fantastic top 10 ride the other day as we look towards another very experienced rider here, Shayna Powless, a raft of riders from the United States of America. And it's actually worth, when we talked about the international flavour of racing on Zwift, it's worth giving a really big shout out to a rider called Kath McKay from Team AHDR. She is riding in Australia and it's 3 a.m. So fair play, I do doff my cap to her. That's a bit of a disadvantage, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that also shows dedication and the power of the mind as an athlete. Just, it doesn't really matter. They're in it to win it. And so you always have to watch out for those riders. You know, obviously it's 3 a.m., but she's planning for this day and she wants a result.
She certainly does. Well, this is another little group off the back and just highlights how technical, how demanding Zwift racing is. That's Alexis Ryan there, just on the back, riding for Canyon SRAM, 25 years of age. But a real classy bike rider, one of the finest road riders of the world. But it does take a little bit of time to get used to racing on Zwift. It's so out of the blocks, flat sticks, 6, 7, 8 watts a kilo before it settles down to riding at threshold. A completely different effort than racing on the road. I mean, just to illustrate her caliber, second in Omloop Het Nieuwsblad back in 2018, 5th in Amstel Gold in 2018. And I think this doesn't diminish anything about the quality of Alexia as a rider. It just shows the demands of racing on Zwift. It's almost a different sport, isn't it?
Yes, I definitely call it it's a different discipline within our amazing sport that we have already. And again, just like any discipline within our sport, when a road cyclist hops onto a velodrome for the first time, there are definitely some different demands and strategy that you have to, basically get ready for, and you have to train for specifically. And I see Zwift racing as no different than that. I coach a number of women who are continually racing on the Zwift platform, and our training has changed. Our training has become more specific to doing well on Zwift.
Indeed, and it is a lot of fun as well as the racing element. There's the wonderful community element, and I think it's worth just reminding everybody who's watching now, as we look at one of the race favourites, just to look at that Cecilia Hansen on the left-hand side, putting out 423 watts, not even midway through this race at the moment. She is a very, very classy rider indeed. Double champion of Zwift of Sweden, and one of the finest protagonists of racing on this particular platform. Definitely look out for her at the finish. But that was a key example there, Kristen, wasn't it, of her making sure at all times that she's at or near the head of affairs. Another group off the back, another Canyon SRAM rider, that's Christina Riffel, very classy rider from Germany, 21 years of age. Here's a look inside her pain cave there. Still putting out 250 watts, 260 watts, but unfortunately out the back. And every lap we're losing 5 or 6 riders. It wouldn't surprise me, Kristen, if we get a group coming into the finish of only around 25, even 30 riders.
Yeah, I think that is a high possibility, and possibly even less. I've always believed that after about 10 minutes of riding at threshold, as you can see, we're at 15 minutes into the race, and I started seeing riders starting popping off the back after about 10 minutes. And after about 10 minutes of trying to keep up to a threshold that maybe your body's not capable of doing or sustaining, we're now 15 minutes in, and we can see that those who were following and just trying to stay in, it just physiologically wasn't possible.
Indeed, and it's very, very, we alluded to it a little bit earlier on, once you get detached, once you lose the wheel on Zwift, it's actually far harder to get back. If it's just a couple of seconds, and there's a possibility that you cannot hang around, and generally speaking, as you said, I think what we're seeing here and what we're seeing happening here is a real natural selection. It's the riders that simply cannot maintain that pace. I've no doubt there's a few riders there who maybe didn't get the warm-up quite right, or maybe got in a bad position. Riders in front of them opened up the gap, just like in real life. And we are seeing so many similarities here between a crit in real life and a crit on the Zwift platform, as we look at another group of riders out of the back. And way back at the front, we've got Julia Decker from R3R leading. Illy Gardner from Rowan King continues to impress. Her heart rate, 191 beats a minute. She must have a max heart rate, well, I'd say about 210. If I were to be a gambling man there. Vicky Whitelaw also moving to the front as we look at this group near the back now. 7 laps from 15, nearly coming to the halfway point as we hit the cobble climb once more. And a few riders here, Kristen, unsurprisingly, being lapped already.
Wow, I tell you what, there's definitely nothing easy about Zwift platform and racing by any means. I've hopped in a few times and have been quickly humbled. And so I have to give it out to all the women out there today who are not only in the first group, but also those who are just continually to push as hard as they can.
And I think that one of the things that impresses me about racing on Zwift, we get these big numbers riding, more and more teams are entering, but regardless of how much suffering that a rider goes through, regardless of how distant they become, they come back for more, continually wanting to improve. And that's what's absolutely wonderful. You've got this, we've got a very, very big community on Zwift, plus this community of racers too, who continually come back for more and provide such great entertainment. And of course, with this Tour for All, we're raising money as well. And just a quick reminder that throughout the month of May, Zwift are raising money, or everybody on Zwift raising money for Doctors Without Borders, that's Médecins Sans Frontières. And at the start of May, Zwift donated $125,000, and they will donate a further $125,000 if 250,000 Zwifters ride at least one stage of the Tour for All. So we've got what we're now 5 more days for that to happen, but I think we're well on the way. So a wonderful cause the money's being raised for as we look at Christy Tracy there, picture in picture, looking pretty comfortable for Team Saris.
Yeah, you know, one of the things on racing on this platform is when you show pictures of the women in their pain cave, there's no hiding. You know, in real life, you have your glasses on, you have your helmet on, and a lot of times I was known for having a game face and, you know, nose breathing. But there's no hiding here. You can see the suffering on the face and obviously the body mannerisms that are happening just out of pure, just going as hard as you can.
Yeah, that's what it's. I really do enjoy these pictures. Like you said, it gives you a real insight into the efforts that these riders are making. As we look at Alice Lethbridge there from Team Vision, looking very good, still putting out 350 watts. Very, very impressive indeed. Still a few riders using their power-ups here. And there's a couple of United States jerseys in worth mentioning. It's a team that will have something to do with, Chris, and the USA national team. Madigan Monroe, one of the riders there, a former US cyclocross junior champion. Give us a little bit of a flavour of what that team's all about, because primarily it is young and up-and-coming riders, isn't it?
Yeah, I think actually today's U.S. national team is a little bit of mix of young and actually quite experienced. You know, we have Aaron Huck, who was a favorite or continues to be a favorite to go and lead the team in Tokyo for mountain biking. So we have some of the off-road athletes coming in. We have downhill legend, Kathy Pruitt, who back in 2000 was a former junior world champion and as well as a bronze medalist in the 2009 World Championships for downhill mountain biking. And then we have Monroe and we have Bemis, who are very, very young athletes who are up and coming in USA Cycling. And then we have Christabel, who also rides for Team Rally and is known for her hill climbing ability. However, I often see Christabel on Zwift, so she obviously is in this front group still in the top 10. You can see riding in 7th position right now. Because of her experience on Zwift, she is still obviously hanging strong.
She certainly is. This group has really whittled down now. Another lap ticks by, 15.6 kilometres under the wheels of these riders as Tacey now from Team Drops. April Tacey, they're a UCI Continental team from Great Britain. They have a good field here, a good set of riders, should I say. April Tracy, 19 years of age. She was 9th in the individual time trial championships of Great Britain last year. So very, very good rider against the clock. And hasn't raced on Zwift too much, but clearly by getting herself to the front there is looking very good. As we look at another clutch of riders, another 7 or 8 riders off the back there. So rider after rider getting dropped from this field. And as you said, I think I kind of punted it out there, about 30 riders, but I think we could see, if this rate of attrition continues, we could see only around 20 riders in this lead group as we head into the back part of this race. Riders thinking about their strategy, thinking about getting the right power-ups. And in relation to riders getting power-ups every lap, it is worth mentioning that it's random, completely random, the one that you get given. So you are in the lap of the gods too a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. You're going to want to save that actual power-up that you receive on the start-finish line in the final laps. If you have a power-up that potentially your team has a tactic that they're going to play to, then you definitely want to have that for that finishing climb or flat section coming into the finish line. Obviously, it's going to be a matter of which teams out there have the depth that is required to actually play out a team tactic. You know, obviously you can see Team Hino, you can see Team 2020, you can see that there's a few left from TIPCO out there. And so as we enter into the coming laps and we see those teams, we'll be able to look more at the depth of those teams and how maybe they may come together in a team tactic kind of way.
Indeed. Well, that's Lauren Stevens has taken a bit of a jump off the front. This is interesting. Again, we had a long chat before about riders coming into this race and causing a little bit of disruption. Lauren Stevens now 7.3 watts a kilos, goes clear, opened up over the top of that climb, a 1.7 second gap. And as you said, Christian, she's a consummate time trialist. She's going to be zipping past another group that are going to be lapped at the moment. Still a long way to go, 12.2 kilometres to the finish. That equates to around 6 laps. But Stevens now really wanting to split this up. This is a proper attack now. She's managed to take 2 seconds from the punch. This is going to be hard. Is she going to wait for a couple of riders to come across, or is she going to try and solo? But this is what we want, nice, aggressive racing.
Well, I think what Lauren Stevens did is absolutely perfect. You know, obviously we saw Lucy Charles Barkley do that to her on the climb, and obviously if Lauren Stevens did the climb again, if she went back, she'd probably try to go. And so she's learning as she races more on Zwift can you take risks? What's the the not normal way of racing, and how do I catch people off guard? We can't forget she has Leah Dixon as her teammate that is one of our favorites today. And so there's no risk in taking the risk. I mean, obviously she has nothing to lose. And so, hey, good job, Lauren. Obviously I love seeing aggressive racing, and now we're seeing more of this on the Zwift platform.
Yeah, this is a brave move by Lauren Stevens. Her gap has been sort of shaved a little bit now to Chaffin on the front. Lizzie Duncombe never far from the head of affairs in third position. McKay there too. A lot of the riders that we expected to be up or thereabouts in the mix are still there, but it looks like her gap has been brought down. But a great point that you raised there, Kristen. The Tipco Silicon Valley Bank rider Stevens has now been brought back, but she's been brought back because other riders have had to go to the front. They know that it should be very, very dangerous to let go clear. Lizzie Duncombe would have been pretty, maybe a little bit worried about that move going clear, but it has forced other riders to chase, taken a little bit of their reserves away, and taking moves like that. I mean, firstly, it's an opportunity to go clear on your own. It's an opportunity to try and split things up, but it's also an opportunity to test yourself and just see how you feel, isn't it? Oh, that's so important, isn't it, in racing?
It definitely is, and we still are only into lap 10. We have 5 laps to go, and so you can, as a rider, take a risk with 10 minutes left in the race and come back and recover, especially as fit as someone like Lauren Stevens is showing to be.
Indeed. Well, Tacey, another little move here, but one of the American riders you're talking about, Krista Doble-Hitchcock. This is a good little move. That first little move by Stevens there, providing the catalyst for other riders to say, hey, if Lauren can do it, I can do it too. Nice little move. Only half a second she's managed to eke out. These are those little rollers before the 180-degree turn back into the finishing straight one more time. Past the Scotty inflatables, back up through the finish. An interesting little move here. Again, perhaps just testing the water, seeing how her legs are feeling. This is that 180-degree right-hander back through the finishing straight. Another lap down. But a good thing for the American team, I can see lots of US jerseys in amongst the mix. That must make you feel pretty happy. But the fascinating thing about the American team, I didn't know, to be honest, there was so many different riders in the mix. It just shows we've got riders from cyclocross, riders from mountain biking, riders from downhill mountain biking, triathlon, road, track, coming together and racing on the Zwift platform, giving it so much flavour and making it far more unpredictable as well.
Definitely. I think that obviously entering into a new discipline of the sport all at once, you kind of feel like you're on a, even playing field. And so if you all enter into this new platform together, then there's nothing to lose. And nobody really has any more experience than the other. Well, maybe somebody has maybe a year on somebody else, but there's not much more experience than one another right now. So I think that is what makes it so exciting as well.
Indeed. Another rider. Oh, this is Lizzie Duncombe. Has she just been detached from the back of that group? It looks like Lizzie Duncan, something's happened there. That's a big surprise. No wondering we're focusing on that. Did she drop a little bit too far back and did a gap open? As we look at Tanya Erath here, one of my outside favourites for this particular race. And it looks like Duncan now, she is in no person's land at the moment. She used a little bit of an aero power up. It is now or never for Duncan. She needs to get back in contact. So hard to ride on your own at the kind of pace that they're riding at here. This isn't a good position. Big surprise.
Definitely, this is a huge effort, especially with only 4 laps to go, which is under 10 minutes, mind you. And so it's obviously what happens is we saw Lauren Stevens go up the front. We saw a counterattack by Christabel from Team USA, and that's just what we call the rubber band effect. I mean, if there was another person who was willing to take that risk and attacking, I wouldn't be surprised if a group finally would have gotten off. Riders have to often play on one another's moves in order for the peloton to finally just crack and start splitting up.
Yep, that's a big surprise, but she is out the back, and she was knocking that back the watts. She used that power up, a wise move to try everything. But I'm not too sure exactly what has happened there, but she is out of this group. Still over 20 riders in this group. Leah Dixon moves to the front from Team Tibco. Good little move earlier on by her teammate Stevens. Julia Decker now moves to the front. Erath is there. Heelan from Team Hino. All of the favours. Hannah Ludwig from Canyon SRAM, a very, very fast finisher. I think 3 or 4 of the Canyon SRAM riders still there in the mix. And right on cue, we have the picture of the German. Won at the Zwift Academy final back in 2017. It's forced her way on to the German Team Time Trial squad off the back of her Zwift performances. I think she's on the periphery of perhaps getting an Olympic place, but a very powerful rider, likes a course like this, and looks pretty much in control at the moment, doesn't she?
Yeah, she definitely looks nice and relaxed. I can only imagine these last few laps that are left in today's crit are going to just get crazy fast. In fact, obviously the first couple laps you mentioned about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I can see these final laps coming down closer to 2 minutes per lap when people start putting everything out there.
Indeed, well, only 7.4 kilometres to go. As you can see on the top left, the little checkered flag there. This is the lead group. We are in the downtown Dolphin Crit City. This is the final women's race of the Tour for All Invitational. It's a mountainous affair last week. Complete contrast today. 15 laps of this Crit City course, and the vast majority of the favourites, the vast majority of the punchers, the riders who have a real kick at the finish, the sprinters are here. Celia Hansen there just at the back of this group, the double Swedish Zwift champion. There she is, looking at her stats at the moment, just feathering the pedals at the moment. She does look very, very comfortable. Back onto the cobble climb one more time, out of the saddle, again looking comfy. The face there, again, we talked about wearing masks. She looks to be very, very comfortable indeed, moving up at 300 watts plus.
Definitely, you can see the experience she has. That fan was what kind of took me.
That was so enormous.
Important to continually cool yourself down, even though you think of it as a 35-minute race. But really, it's very, very important to keep that core temperature cool to stay on top of those watts that you need to produce on a course like this.
Yeah, definitely. Riding indoors, you need to be hydrated. Even for an event like this, they're going to need to be, very optimally hydrated before the event, topping up their fluids, and as you said, Kristen, importantly, keeping as cool as possible, because you do get that heart rate float. There's a danger of your heart rate getting too high, and therefore your body cannot produce the normal watts when it's at a normal kind of temperature. So keeping cool, absolutely crucial. Ventilation and fans, and that was a fan, I think, big enough to almost power a hovercraft. But anyway, we're heading into the final few laps of this race now. The group now only 25 riders strong, and it's Düring on the front there. Neelan swaps turn. Hannah Ludwig there from Canyon SRAM. She could provide a good foil and a lead-out rider for Tanya Erath. Coming round that final bend, back into the finishing straight one more time. We have only 3 laps to go now. This is getting exciting. Big. I'm not too sure if that's a grimace or a smile there, Kristen, on the face of Jackie Herring from the United States, Team Evok.
Yeah, definitely. We have to really pay attention these last 3 laps. If you're a rider in the peloton, the minute you start getting further than, I would say, 10th back in that group, it's going to be really hard to move as you have throughout the race. Like I said, when the laps and the speeds get faster, the ability to move up from that back to the front becomes really, really hard. It takes so much more power to actually move from 25th position to 5th.
It certainly does. Well, Morgan Chaffin is leading from Velocity Vixens at the front. Good riding by her. Leatherbridge is there from Team Vision. Kath McKay from AHDR in that purple and blue kit. Couple of riders there from 2020 Show Vision as well. You can just see the big 2-0 on their backs. A few Canyon SRAM riders. Another rider just gets detached. Another casualty of this infernal pace that is being set now. Back down to the far part of the circuit. And as you said, Kristen, this washing machine effect, because the riders know it's so important to be at or near the front, they're constantly trying to move up round the outside. That just pushes the pace up. Until riders are pretty much riding at or near threshold here. 390 watts here for Shayna Paulus.
Yeah, definitely. Shayna Paulus is one of those riders that I actually I am coaching her, and so she's really embraced the Zwift platform. And even when she is in the pain cave, she definitely has a very game face on right now. She's definitely suffering.
That was amazing. I thought somebody was using CGI to mask her expression there. She was making a 390 watts look very, very easy. Perhaps the result of some consummate coaching there by Kristen Armstrong coming into the last few laps. Now Shayna Paulus at the front. The Kristen Armstrong coach rider having that full game face here. Lethbridge at the front. Illy Gardner's impressive riding again by the youngster from Rowan King there in the blue and green kit. Velocity Vixen's Sidic now moves through to the front. Still nobody managing to move clear. No more real definitive attacks since that move from Lauren Stevens. Canyon SRAM just at the back of this group now, Chaffin back to the front. Illy Gardner putting out 300 watts. That is a face. Look at that. She is determined to try and stay in this bunch. This last couple of laps, these are really going to hurt now.
Yeah, and she looks like she's definitely in a windstorm, so there's no question whether or not she's using a fan. But that's what you have to do. These last few laps, I'm going to be interested to see if riders are actually using their power-ups. If they are, it's probably a power-up they don't want to finish the last lap with. So we'll have to watch this as we approach the Pave cobblestone climb just ahead of us.
Indeed, it's a matter of do you get rid of a power-up, or do you just wait? If you've got a particularly good one, do you risk not using it for one lap and maybe expending just a little bit more energy? There's so many different permutations here, and that's what makes this gamification of element of Zwift so intriguing. The random distribution of these power-ups, but more often the rider's ability to use the power-up that they're given at just the right time. On a course like this, with that very fast approach to that 180-degree turn, then that 200-meter flat run into the finish, the power-up use so important as we look at Alice Lethbridge. Again, just pedaling 266 watts, 175 beats a minute, so well into threshold levels here. 1 lap and a half to go. Still, we have 22 riders in this front group. Still very difficult to call here, Kristen.
Yeah, very difficult. It's going to be all about position as you enter into that cobble climb, but also, again, keeping that position over the top during that right-hand turn, all the way down as you take speeds over 60 kilometers an hour to that last 200-meter finish.
Well, a lot of power-ups being dropped on this climb here. Remember, 200 meters at 4%. They've already gone up it. They whizzed up that one. The pace has dramatically increased over the last couple of laps. Still a few power-ups being used early doors here. So riders using this power-up to gain a little bit of an advantage, just to maybe, although you're using the aerodynamic power-up on this particular section, it will mean that you can just back off the pedals a little bit, or even use that advantage to move up, and then hopefully get another power-up that's the right one as we head into the final lap. But it's Decker, Loudon, Davidson, Tacey, Pole, Lauren Stevens still there in 9th position. All of the riders that we expect to be at or near the head of affairs are here. Lots of ride-ons being used as well. You can see the back pockets of all of these riders glowing with all the ride-ons they got. And in just 300 meters time, Chris, and we are going to get the lap. 1 to go. This is going to be an absolutely rip-roaring finale here.
It sure is, and you have to wonder, what are teams doing right now? If they have more than one rider left in this group, are we at a place on the Zwift platform in racing where actually other members of your team are going to sacrifice and really lead that out in the last lap like you would see in real racing? You know, I haven't experienced elite women racing on a course like this yet, so those are some of the questions, and that's some of the ways that the Zwift platform is developing.
Indeed, well, we know that riders communicate, but on a course like this, it's so explosive, and the racing is relatively short. Of course, the riders can communicate with each other, but it's you can have a plan, you can keep communicating, but ultimately it's how you can hold on. You need to be in very good shape. You need to be very focused. It's now Tacey from Team Drops lifting things up at the front. We're well into the last lap now. 1.6 kilometers to go. We have one more ascent of the cobble climb. Pruitt now moves to the front for Team USA. Let's have a look at some of the other riders that are in the mix there. Olivia Barrel is there. She's a fast finisher. Leah Dixon there from Team Tidco. She can explode very well at the finish as well. Vicky Whitelaw is also there. Tanya Erath now moving to the front. This is going to be a very explosive last lap as we go through another group of riders here. Hopefully the main bunch will move past this group of lap riders very swiftly. Otherwise this could be quite a complicated sprint finish.
Yeah, definitely. As we approach the cobble climb where a lot of tactics are happening, we're now approaching a group that was off the back. And so how do we use our power-ups? How does this change our game? What's going to happen in this last kilometer to the finish line?
Well, it's Lou Bates who takes to the front. Whitelaw overtakes her. Lots of power-ups being used here. A few further power-ups have been dropped. Van power-ups as well. How many riders have saved it to the finishing straight? We only have 800 meters to go. Another little group's about to be overtaken. This field is smashed to smithereens. Lou Bates from Team R3R now on the front. We're coming into the rollers now. 700 meters to go. Are we going to see an attack, or are we going to see a big bunch sprint?
Well, I think that we're going to see a big bunch print now. I think it's really too late in the game. The speeds are too high in order to get off the front. So now it's all about positioning, holding your position in this last really quick section through the park into that 180-degree turn for the last 200 meters.
Well, we have 430 metres to go. Lou Bates now. Schroeder now makes a little move on the front for Team Fearless. This is an interesting move. 6.6 watts a kilo. Lou Bates now opens things up for R3R. We're coming into the final hairpin bend. This is the 180-degree turn that leads us into the finishing straight. There you can see the finishing gantry. Dixon opens things up. Lethbridge is there. Stevens is on the front here. Stevens and Barrel neck and neck. Barrel moves to the front. It looks like Barrel from Team Turbo took the win, or is it Stevens? We'll get confirmation in a moment. Neck and neck between Team Turbo's Olivia Barrel and Lauren Stevens. A photo finish there, but what an exciting finish that was. And it was Lauren Stevens who takes the win just ahead of Team Turbo's Olivia Barrel, with Huback in third place. An absolutely sensational finish there, Kristen.
That was unbelievable. You know, Lauren Stevens has been tirelessly, she's been on Zwift, she's been practicing Zwift. In fact, every time I see her name pop up, I'm like, she's racing again on Zwift. And so she obviously is dedicated to being her best, just as she would be when she's racing in real life.
Well, there we go. A great timed sprint there. She was definitely testing her legs earlier on. Tried to go clear about midway through the race, but that certainly didn't affect her performance at the finish. Perfectly timed sprint and use of a power-up. She takes the win for Team Tibco. One place better than last week. Barrel, Huback. Then we have Tacey, great ride by the 19-year-old from Team Drops. Then we have Gil from Velocity Vixens. Celia Hansen there from Team Hino, the second from Hino. Tanya Erath, again, a very solid top 10 performance by the rider from Canyon SRAM. Lou Bates was there in 8th for Team R3R, half a second adrift. Then Dixon and Lethbridge rounding out the top 10 for Team Vision. Average watts per kilo 4.6. That was a very, very hard ride, but it did all come back down to a bunch sprint. But we'll have a look at the replay here, Kristen. Lauren Stevens timed that sprint. It was neck and neck between her and Olivia Barrel. But just talk us through these last few hundred meters. Well, there was the finish. That was the finish. Difficult to talk through. Lots of power-ups being used there. But I think it just shows how well that Stevens has adapted to racing on Zwift to take out the victory there.
Definitely. And I look at some of those power-ups still being lit up, and Lauren Stevens had used that power-up earlier.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Again, another thing we discussed was the fact timing your power-up right. The aero boost power-up is the one you want. That keeps you more aero for 15 seconds. So you need to use it right. And as we said before, I don't think you've actually used it optimally if it's still lit up as you cross the finishing line. But there was an aero boost used by Stevens. She used it earlier on, and it put her in a good position, but it was very, very close. Looks like half a wheel, I think. In fact, the second place rider Barrel there was maybe carrying just a little bit more speed, but it is all about who crosses the line first. And wonderful to see this race being used for the elite women. That was very, very exciting. And I'm just glad, Kristen, I was sat down in my office chair rather than riding tonight.
Definitely. I think that it obviously, whenever I'm watching the race, I like to live vicariously through it. And so I actually am glad I was sitting down during this race, but also am very motivated to get on my bike.
Yeah, I've certainly got a big sweat on here in the UK, but there is confirmation of the winner today. Lauren Stevens of the United States and Team Tibco takes the win ahead of Olivia Barrel of Team Turbo, and the ever-consistent Lou Huback of Team Hino is in third position. Then we have Tacey, Gill, Hansen, Erath, Bates, Dixon and Lethbridge rounding out the top 10 for the final race of the women's series of the Tour for All Invitationals. So the Tour for All does continue, and remember, if you want to jump on board Zwift over the next few days, it's a catch-up week. So if you haven't ridden one of the stages or you've missed a stage out, please jump on Zwift and do one of these events, because if we can get 250,000 Zwifters on the platform during the Tour for All, Zwift will donate another $125,000 towards Medicine Sans Frontiers, which Kristen, is absolutely wonderful, isn't it?
It is amazing to be able to ride, but also know you're riding for a great cause. There's nothing better. There's no better feeling.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for commentating alongside me, Kristen. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will mention now that we've actually worked together in the past, because I actually pushed you off, didn't I, on the start ramp of the 2012 Olympic Games en route to victory.
I know. I can't believe that story. In fact, I can't wait to go back through my videos and check you out. And so I'll make sure I share that with the Zwift community once I find this great image of you giving me that push.
Well, thanks very much indeed. Well, there we go. Stephen's at the front and Stephen's on at the podium in the start ramp of the Olympics in 2012. Well, moving along rather swiftly, we do have one final race for you all to watch on the Tour for All, and that is this coming Thursday, the 28th of May, where the men face everything that the New York Everything Bagel can throw at them. Same time, 7 o'clock BST, that's 7 p.m. BST. OJ Borg and, of course, Rhea Hubble at the top of the show. I'll be commentating. Please do make sure you join me. But for now, from me and Kristen Armstrong, from the downtown Dolphin Course, stay safe and goodbye, and keep on Zwifting. Ride on.